A few days after Christmas in 2017, Andrew Finch heard commotion outside his home in Wichita, Kansas. When he stepped outside to see what was going on, he was surrounded by SWAT officers yelling at him to put his hands up. Extremely confused and having no idea what was happening, he didn't know what to do, and before he could really do anything, he was shot and killed by Officer Justin Rapp. It would turn out that his death was a result of a lost Call of Duty wager of $1.50. On December 28, 2017, over 700 miles away in Ohio, an 18-year-old named Casey Viner was playing a game of Call of Duty World War II against 19-year-old Shane Gaskill, who lived in Wichita, Kansas. After an argument over a $1.50 wager connected to the game, the two began exchanging insults and threats on social media. During the heated exchange, Casey threatened to have Shane swatted. And for those of you who don't know what swatting means, this is when someone makes a fake 911 call to send armed police to a victim's house. And believing that the threat was a bluff and Casey was not actually going to swat him, Shane claimed that his address was 1033 West McCormick Street in Wichita, when in reality that was his previous address, and he no longer lived there. He had no idea if someone did live there or not. But someone did live there, and that person was 28-year-old Andrew Finch. Andrew Finch, who went by Andy, was born on March 19, 1989 to his parents Thomas and Lisa in California. Andy had 3 siblings, Jerome, Nikki, and Adrian. Unfortunately, Adrian would pass away from a car accident in 2002 and leave a daughter behind, Adelina, who was Andy's niece, and he actually lived with her and his mother at the time of his death. He had always been passionate about art, especially drawing, and at the time of this case, he was studying to be a tattoo artist. He also had 2 young children, Aiden and Danica, and he was known as a caring father. He was someone who loved his family deeply and would do anything for them. At the time of this case, Andy was home in Wichita with his mother and his niece. But back in Ohio, gamer Casey Viner was going through with his bluff to swat Shane Gaskill. Casey contacted Tyler Barris, a 25-year-old absolute loser of a man who lived in California and was well known in the online gaming communities for his swatting. In fact, his gamer handle was Swatistic. Tyler agreed to carry out the prank and placed the call to Wichita emergency dispatchers. And during the call, he claimed that he had shot his father in the head, he was holding his mother and younger sibling hostage, and that he had poured gasoline around the whole house and was considering setting the residence on fire. When asked for his address, he gave them the address that he believed to be Shane's, 1033 West McCormick Street. The call was convincing enough that police treated it as an active hostage situation involving a potentially armed and dangerous suspect. As officers surrounded the home in Wichita, they had no idea that the address actually belonged to Andy Finch, a father of 2 who had absolutely nothing to do with the online dispute and didn't know any of the men involved. Andy had spent the evening with family members, and he was unaware that police had surrounded his home until he stepped outside after hearing noises and seeing flashing lights. Officers immediately began shouting commands, and video footage later showed him appearing confused as he raised and then lowered his hands. Believing that he was reaching for a weapon, Officer Rapp fired a single shot that struck him in the chest. Andy collapsed in his driveway and was later pronounced dead at a nearby hospital just 17 minutes later. No weapons were found on him, and investigators quickly discovered that the emergency call had been entirely fabricated. The incident sparked outrage across the country as details emerged that Andy had been killed because of an argument over a video game. Investigators traced the hoax call back to Tyler within days, and he was arrested in Los Angeles on December 29, 2017. Federal authorities later linked him to numerous other swatting incidents and bomb threats across the United States. During the investigation, law enforcement also identified Casey as the person who had recruited Tyler to carry out the SWAT, and Shane as the individual who had supplied the address. In March 2019, Tyler Barris pled guilty to 51 federal charges, including conspiracy, cyberstalking resulting in death, making false reports, and wire fraud. He was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison, which is one of the harshest punishments that ever imposed on a swatting case. Casey Viner later pled guilty to conspiracy and obstruction charges and was sentenced to 15 months in prison, while Shane Gaskill received an 18-month sentence after pleading guilty to related federal charges. Though his actions remain controversial and heavily debated, Officer Justin Rapp never faced any criminal charges or departmental discipline. In fact, he was even promoted to detective in 2022. Andy's family filed lawsuits against the city and the individuals involved, arguing that the tragedy could have been prevented. In 2022, the city of Wichita agreed to pay a $5 million settlement to his family. The case also led to increased public awareness of swatting and called for stronger penalties against perpetrators. However, this family also faced another tragedy as a result of that preventable and horrific day back in 2017. Andy's niece, Adelina, who had already lost her mother 15 years earlier, had actually witnessed her uncle's death that day and had to step over his body to exit the home. Her family said that she was just never the same after that, and very sadly in 2019, when she was just 18 years old, she took her own life. This family has lost so much because of the actions of 4 people: Casey, Shane, Tyler, and Officer Rapp. The family misses Adelina and Andy more than words can describe, and although they won the settlement, no amount of money will ever make up for their loss.